Is it recording now?
One must not get one's knickers in a twist.
I'm trying.
These are the stories your granny never told.
Clint Eastwood loved my apple pie. I was raising a cow and 50 sheep and 2 chickens.
I slipped upon some spilled onions on the road and crashed my motorbike.
Hello again, my grannies. It's your host, Nikki, and this is Stories Your Granny Never Told. It's a monthly podcast where I interview older folk about the unexpected stories from their youth. Once again, this month I am bringing you a remote interview recorded from my closet, so you'll have to forgive the audio that sometimes cuts out and things like that, but still, overall, it sounds pretty good, and I think it's worth it. This month I interviewed Gypsy Haake, who was so fun to talk to. He offers us a voyage into old Hollywood, starting from when he was MC of La Cage aux Folles in Palm Springs, and also his appearances in multiple films. He's also the world's oldest working drag queen, and recently starred in a Miley Cyrus music video, which is how I found him in the first place, and also he's awesome. We talk about living through Stonewall in New York and the AIDS pandemic and somehow surviving all of it. I mean, Gypsy has his own star in Palm Springs on the Walk of Fame. How cool is that? So without any further ado, Gypsy Haake. We can start with whatever you want, maybe at the beginning of your career, or however you'd like to start. For maybe just introduce yourself.
Sure. Well, it's a wonderful thing to be above ground at 88. And it's even more wonderful when you get a chance to talk about a journey that other people haven't taken. And yet it'll be interesting to see as you travel along. So you'll be in a train car with me and we're going up the tracks and we're going to, instead of look at the scenery that goes by us, the scenery will be us.
That is a great metaphor.
At the age of 18, I graduated from high school in Morristown, New Jersey. Mm-hmm. A year later, with an open call, I became my first professional dance. I got the name Gypsy because dancers in choruses and Broadway musicals and in big companies are called gypsies because they go from show to show. Singers in choruses are not called that, only dancers.
Okay. So to introduce you, you're James Gypsy Haake, is that correct? Haake. Do you prefer if I call you Gypsy or if I call you James, or it doesn't matter?
Call me Gypsy. Nobody else. The other ones call me James. There are two people that are still alive from high school. Okay.
Will do. And do you prefer the term female impersonator or drag queen, or?
So this is a very interesting thing because I've gotten in trouble with a lot of gay people because I never considered myself a drag queen. And they took that as a personal thing. It wasn't that at all. I consider drag queens people that are beautiful.
Yeah.
Because I've always thought of drag queens as being beautiful. The RuPauls of the world, people that I worked with all these 30 years. I've never been beautiful. I've always looked fabulous from the neck down. I never wore boobs and I never wore wigs. And I just wore fabulous hats and fabulous dresses. Shall I pick a picture up from behind me? Would you see it? You will scream.
I'll see it. Yeah, the listeners won't, but I can certainly describe it or show it later on.
Can you see this?
Yes. Well, I think you do look beautiful. Wow, that's a fabulous gown.
This was taken in Lake Tahoe when I opened at the Horizon Casino Resort in 2000. This is a Roberto Cavalli gown.
Oh, it's magnificent.
That's what I look like at 70.
Not bad at all. I hope to look that good at 70.
Honey, if I looked like you, I wouldn't work a day in my life.
Well, I wish that were true.
Well, anyway, my career started from 1951 to 1969 between some Broadway musicals, and then I was on the road with a big group in New York called the K. Gorham Dancers.
So you were a dancer mainly?
Yeah, well, what I was with a group, like we would go on the road, we were backup acts dancing for famous people.
Okay.
Long before your parents were born.
Yeah.
Arthur Godfrey had a famous show.
Arthur Godfrey and his friends.
And some of the stars from his show, an Irish singer by the name of Carmel Quinn.
I've met some folk who say that I'm a dreamer.
Became famous. And then she would go on the road and we would have 2 boys and 2 girl dancers. And I would be part of that group. So I did all of that at Broadway musicals. And of course, I became very close with Chita Rivera.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Chita Rivera.
I got no car, got no mule, got no misery.
And Vivian Blaine from Guys and Dolls. And Chita and I are still friends.
Oh, great.
And I don't see her too often, but when she was in Palm Springs, finally got to see each other after 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And
what a reunion.
so then I opened my own nightclub in New York. I was too old to dance. I was in my late 30s.
Yes, I heard you did. I'm calling you from New York, actually, so that's a nice connection.
That was on 58th and 1st, right by the 59th Street Bridge.
Okay, sure, yeah.
On one side of the bridge was the Eileen Ford model agency then, and I was on the other corner. And Gypsy's was a cabaret, and we had a gay bar in front. I entertained and introduced singers.
Okay.
Jane Oliver got her start there, and Christine Ebersol got her start there at 19. She was a waitress in a restaurant while she was going to the academy. And a lot of people got their start there. Nell Carter sang there. Chita, of course, brought in Fred Ebb and John Cantor, and they broke in a lot of songs from their different shows.
Great.
And in 1978, when Studio 54 and all that kind of movement was going on, cabaret became obsolete. And so my club, people were not going there. So I decided, I wasn't 50 yet, almost. I went to LA, checked in with some friends of mine that I'd made over the years, and then I just retired. But a strange thing happened on the way to the Forum. In 1979 or 80, a film from Paris called La Cage aux Folles opened, and with Michel Serrault and Ugo Togliatti in the leads. And it caused a stir and won the Oscar for Best Foreign Film that year. But a producer from New York decided to open a restaurant and nightclub with a show called La Cage aux Folles. And he got the rights to do it before there ever was a musical, before there ever was anything. There was that in Beverly Hills on La Cienega Boulevard. I came out of retirement. I wasn't even 40 yet, and almost 50.
So much for early retirement.
Yeah, I was almost 50. And of course, it became internationally famous.
So you went to dance for La Cage aux Folles?
No, I became the host.
Oh, you were the host.
I was the MC. I'd never done drag before 1980.
So that's the first time you did drag, and you were about 50.
Yeah, I was 50 in 1982, but the show had already opened for you.
Okay. How did that transition work? Did they just say, hey, do you want to do drag?
No.
And you're just like, why not?
When the nightclub opened, they didn't have a star.
Mm-hmm.
And that night, but the owner said, we'll have a star by tomorrow. And I was on the guest list with Vivian Blaine, and Connie Stevens was my blind date. So that's how Connie and I became so close.
Oh.
And so we went to the opening night, and then the owner said, I know who you are. You're Gypsy from Gypsies. I said, yes. And Vivian Blaine said, well, he's going to be your new host. Oh. I never had a dress. I never had anything. So Vivian Blaine took me the next day. Her limousine picked me up. We went to Saks in Beverly Hills. She bought me 12 gowns, 12 shoes,
Damn.
some makeup, and that's how the history started, kiddo.
So you just dived right into it.
Well, I just decided to not take myself serious when I put on the gowns, which became synonymous with me. The beautiful gowns like the ones you just saw.
Oh yeah, I could see that happening for anyone, like putting on a gown like that, and you're just all of a sudden like, yes.
And then I talk like this.
I love it. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified to say who's a drag queen or not, but I don't see why you wouldn't be. I mean,
well, no, it isn't that. The shows that I've been in, from La Cage aux Folles to Dan Gore, from the shows in Palm Springs and the shows he had in Lake Tahoe, Dan Gore always called his shows celebrity impersonators.
Right, because it sounds fancy.
No. What happens is if you come out and you look glamorous, but you don't look like a famous woman, then you are a glamorous drag queen. You're the drag queen from Drag Queens.
Okay, so you became a drag queen around, what did you say, 48? And
1980.
I can't even imagine walking around in heels all day at my age. And then you went on tours. How do you do it?
Because I never took it serious. I had to put in my head that there's nobody going to think of me as a real woman. And that is, I wasn't dressed like that as a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's for fun.
Because I had to do two things. I had to entertain the audience, and then I had to transport them to a place where they actually thought they were going to see Tina Turner. You know what I mean? And so I had to do me, even though I'm dressed in that. And I changed clothes each act.
How many acts?
Well, usually in the old days, from Dan's original shows, anywhere between 12 and 8 changes a show.
How do you get the energy?
Well, you have a dresser, sweetheart.
Oh.
I stand like this, like a scarecrow. And you have hands out.
You just stand and then they dress you.
And just cover me.
Okay. Still seems like a lot of work.
Well, it was a lot of work, but then, of course, what are you going to do? And, of course, I had a resurgence because of Dan Gore and the shows in Lake Tahoe. Then we opened in Palm Springs. I retired from Palm Springs about a year and a half ago when I moved in with my niece. And it's been absolutely a wonderful ride. But the great thing is I never lost myself in the shows. I was always myself. Now, had I been born beautiful or gorgeous, I might have been a different piece of work.
Yeah, because you might not have to work as hard to perform because you're just pretty and you don't have to be funny or whatever.
My gowns are pretty. My face never looked as good as that Roberto Cavalli dress here. But the thing is that you have to understand, from the time La Cage aux Folles opened in 1980 to the time I left Dan Gore's show at Oscars in Palm Springs, our audiences were mainly straight.
Wow.
They didn't mean gay people didn't come. They did, especially in Palm Springs. But it was mostly a straight audience because it wasn't like if you go to drag shows, and it's wonderful because these performers just get so into the audience.
Oh, yeah.
And they put dollar bills down their boot.
I've done it.
Yeah, it's wonderful, like Toucan's or other places in Palm Springs and in New York and Paris and London. But in a structured theatrical show, that doesn't happen because they're in the audience having had dinner and drinks. And when I come out, I'm the only one that breaks that code because then when I scoot them from the craziness of me, the women want the dresses and the heels. And the men just want to say, what in the world is going on with that guy? Doesn't even have a wig on. And that kind of confusion is so wonderful for an audience because they don't have time to think.
Yeah, that's how you kind of get them to escape. You just take them by surprise, I guess.
Yeah, you just take them to a place. And then at the end of Dan's show, what's wonderful, we all come back out without makeup. We do it all within this time. We're all in tuxedos, all the act.
Oh, lovely.
And it's fabulous. Remember, I have not done a film or a television show except for one thing in the last 20 years. I mean, I've done boodles of films. I've been in some very famous films, and I've done lots of TV. Remember, I was on Married with Children and Dynasty.
Uncle Otto, oh, you look great.
And you, my darling, I could sell you.
Lots of stuff, and little bits or big bits, you know, like to be or not to be. See, that's the interesting thing. 2 years after La Cage aux Folles opened in Beverly Hills, every major star and director in the world came in to see the show. It was the top show in Beverly Hills for years.
And I heard it was very popular in the beginning because it was so controversial.
It was because Reverend Falwell and his group would picket in front and tell all the famous people like Rock Hudson and Elizabeth Taylor and people that came in to see the show not to go in there because they were all going to catch disease.
And they're like, we're going now.
Well, Rock Hudson knocked one of his little disciples out.
Oh.
They touched him as he was coming in with Elizabeth. So he just cold comped him and then came right in. We never had trouble after that.
Yeah, there you go. That's good, like good bad publicity as well.
But anyway, so 2 years after the show opened, Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft, his wife, came in to see the show. And Marvin, and they saw me, and they were just about ready to do principal shooting on a main film that they were co-starring together in, one of their films called To Be or Not to Be.
Okay.
And I had never done a feature film. I'd never done any of that, didn't know nothing. And they signed me to the fourth lead. I had a co-starring role.
Wow.
And I played Sasha, and Anne Bancroft coached me herself through the 6 months of the filming.
Wow, that's fabulous.
And I filmed all in the daytime, and then I went right on stage in the evening at La Cage.
You seem to have so much energy. I'd be exhausted.
And I was 50 years old when they signed me.
Damn.
The film opened in 83.
How was that experience working on a film set and making a movie?
It was hysterical because I was petrified because my opening scenes, my first day of filming, I played Anne Bancroft's dresser in that film. And she was a famous star of the stage in Poland. It was Poland and the Nazis in 1939.
Okay.
It was, I didn't know what a reverse shot was.
I don't either.
Well, you and I are talking. If we were being filmed right now, this is our major shot. But then the reverse would be the camera would go behind your shoulder and shoot me.
Okay.
And we'd repeat the same dialogue we're doing now. Then it would reverse and go behind my shoulder and hit you.
Repeat it again. Yeah. Okay, that's strange. That's completely different to theater, I guess.
But my opening scene for that, me doing her hair, looking in a mirror.
Uh-huh.
So it was really something. But then I went on to do, because of that, I went on to do lots of films.
Yeah, that's a great career bump.
I co-starred with Jane Fonda and Jeff Bridges in The Morning After.
Ooh.
Shelley Long in True Beverly Hills.
I need to watch all of these. I've always wondered, do you get stage fright when you're doing a movie even though there's not really an audience?
No, it's different.
No.
I'm more frightened of the camera. At first I was. Mm-hmm. My biggest problem was not feature films. My biggest problem was when I went on Married with Children, and we have 5 cameras. Ooh. That made me cuckoo. But Katie Seagal got me through that one.
Because there were so many cameras and you just didn't know where to look, or?
The sets, and then it was wonderful.
It sounds amazing. It sounds like a whirlwind of crazy events. Did you notice a difference in your audiences in the States and abroad when you were on tour?
Yes, sort of. But I think it depends on which country you're in. When you're in Helsinki, they were much more amenable. We did very well there. This was a different show than dance. But in Russia, no.
No, they're not very pro-LGBT.
Well, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Remember, I go back to Stonewall.
Right. And speaking of that, talk about that a little bit and maybe how things have changed, especially being in New York, I suppose, at that time.
Well, at that time, there was a woman by the name of Trudy Heller, and she had a florist shop in the Village. But she also had a nightclub, Trudy Heller's, and a lot of people sang there. You know, Craig Russell. Matter of fact, I don't know if Barbara did, but she was in the Bonsoir. I saw Barbara Streisand when she was 19 or 20 at the Bonsoir in the Village.
Oh my God.
Trudy Heller called me up and said, Gypsy, we've got to go to Stonewall because big things are happening. There's a big riot going on. So I actually was there.
At the riot.
When the riots were going on and they raided the place and the people were killed in the fire.
What actually happened? So was it the police or were it just like people that were anti-gay that raided this club?
You know, it's all that awful thing that they would do, harassment on all gay bars. They were just walking you out, you're arrested just for being there and doing nothing. But they fought back. That's what caused the thing.
Okay.
And then if you fast forward to the early 80s in LA, you have the AIDS thing building up. So by 1982, 83, there were people that thought by even going within a block, you would catch it.
Yeah.
Where now we're sitting in our homes. I never thought I'd live through all of those things. I keep thinking about Stonewall. I keep thinking about La Cage aux Folles and the AIDS and all those things that I've experienced. And it's almost mind-boggling that I've been around this long and have gone through those tragedies, but it gives me hope. We got through Stonewall.
Yeah. How did Stonewall change things?
After Stonewall, it was a long-time building, but they couldn't harass gay people in bars. That's how they changed things.
It just showed that we're not weak anymore.
We were not a group of monolithic gay people, that we were very diverse. We could do other things, but we could fight back.
It's really powerful.
Yes, and that's what's going to happen now.
I hope so.
This country and the people are going to be slightly different when this is all over.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to talk about the whole pandemic too much because I'm trying to have like happy episodes, but I do try to look at the silver lining and look at the societal differences that we're going to see on the other side. And I think there will be some positive changes. At least I hope so.
There'll be lots. And of course, now we're living in a day and age when people that are my age at 88, well, you're considered very elderly, but you're not considered on the cusp of death yet.
No.
And my mother died in 1955 and she was 65 and she was considered very elderly. So they've created all this wonderful medicine and they're going to create this one. They'll do it.
Oh yeah, it'll come eventually. I'm sure of that. And actually, by doing this podcast, I've realized that I wasn't ageist before or anything, but the last interviews I had, I think one lady was 89. Last episode was my grandpa, who's 76, I think, and you are 88. You're all super lively and like have all these great stories. Just because people are old doesn't mean like they weren't 25 once and doing cartwheels down Main Street, you know? Like,
well, of course, I think that has never changed.
Yeah.
If you think about when you first started school in kindergarten or first or second grade, when you were there, you'll have bits and pieces of memories.
Yeah.
Anybody that was a teacher was considered elderly.
True.
Your teacher was, you know, so it's everything comes around. But I've been very lucky. The few things that I've had, I have an artificial heart valve, and I've had that for 4 years. But I'm lucky, because I have Paula, I have her husband Dave, I have this beautiful house. They have 2 dogs, and I have my little dog. So we have.
What kind of dogs?
Well, you want to see mine?
Yes, I want to see.
Come on, Nolly, come here.
Oh my God, it's so fluffy. Oh, I love her.
And Reggie is right here. You're a star.
It must be so nice to have them around these days.
My God, yes. So Paula has not only adopted me, but she's adopted Nolly.
Oh.
There's only one way to do this, and that's do it together.
Yeah. One of the reasons that I found out about you, because I was just Googling like older drag queens, and because I love drag queens, you did a video with Miley Cyrus.
I did. This came up out of nowhere 2 years ago. And I was still appearing in the show in Palm Springs. Mm-hmm. And Miley decided to write a song called Younger Now. Mm-hmm. And because she had had a conversation with her mom about what it was like. What do you feel like? Do you feel old or whatever? So she wrote this really great song.
Yeah, I love it. I listened to it. It's great. You were just up there like kicking ass.
Yeah, and then she decided not to hire anyone young. Yeah. Except she had 5 little kids that were 5-year-olds. And she tried to do the progression. So what she did was, there was a famous show for many years in Palm Springs called the Palm Springs Follies. And these were older people that were fabulous women in their 70s and 80s, in costumes and dancing. And so some of the dancers from there in their 60s, 70s, and 60s and 70s, she had as that group that danced, okay? Then she had a separate group that she wanted to be her gang, like David Bowie did.
With the poodle skirts, is that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then she wanted to have 9 people that were in their 80s. And so she picked 8, but she had already signed me. She wanted me to be her dominatrix. So that's why I was in a beaded dress and a leather jacket.
Yeah, and a beret.
And so we danced, we did, and then we interacted. So that's how it got.
And then you were live at the VMAs, right? Was that 2017?
Now that was the VMA Awards after. I did the video. They went nuts. They had no idea what I was. And the funny part of it was, Miley, the directors, they all exited the forum on one side. I was the only one by myself that exited the exit. And waiting in the exit was Pink, waiting to go on, because they were just finishing the dance and they all went that. But I left first. And so Pink stops me and says, "Gypsy, you look gorgeous." I said, "Pink, but I don't look like you." She said, "No, you do not." So we laughed, we have things. And then Rihanna was coming on after her. And she had all her bodyguards there. And she looked out. She said, "Gypsy, what are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here to do your numbers." And she went, I know. So I had a resurgence. Who would have thought?
So like Pink and Rihanna, they just like casually knew you?
Pink knew who I was. Because Gypsy became synonymous with Le Cajafal, even though they're younger, but people know. And of course, they know that I've been connected to these, what I call celebrity impersonator shows. And all these famous people know now that they've always had somewhere in the world, there is a drag queen that has actually imitating them.
Yeah.
Some of them like it and some of them do not. So.
So we talked about RuPaul earlier. What do you think about the sort of RuPaul's kind of dynasty and like modern drag?
It's different. RuPaul is very different. Wonderful story. I mean, after all, the first impersonator or first male dressed as a female that ever got a major makeup commercial. MAC.
Yeah. That was like historic.
He's very unique. And if you're unique, then that sets you apart from 4 or 5 other people. He's so unique. I'm a very different thing. I would never probably be asked to be, I don't think Ru would ever want me on his shows. No, ever.
Yeah, maybe he has his own brand of like fabulous drag.
The drag race, those queens, you run out of face before you run out of makeup.
That is a very good quote. I love that. Do you watch Drag Race?
I have. Well, of course, I've known Ru for many years.
Oh, you've met Rue?
Oh, yes. He came to see me several times in the Lacage days
Oh.
before he became so famous. Yeah. And behind me, if you can see it.
Yeah, there's a framed star.
Yeah, that's my star. I have a star on the Walk of Fame in Palm Springs.
Seriously?
Right outside Oscars. And that's it.
If I'm ever on that coast, I have to go and stand there and take a picture. That's amazing. Whose star are you next to?
I'm on the same line as, what's her face? Lauren Bacall. And quite a few of them. Yeah. I'm right there by Oscars, which is where we did all the shows.
Okay. Oh, I hope I get to go see it once we're allowed back outside. You're such a star, Gypsy.
Well, at one time I was.
I think you still are.
Well,
you'll be a star forever.
I guess. So, yeah, because once you've been on film, your history. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the history of everything. They did a documentary, Radical Age.
Okay.
But that's interesting. There's 5 of us, all in our 80s, and from different parts of the world and the country. And I was in Palm Springs.
I'll have to look for that. That sounds fascinating.
Yes.
I feel terrible because, like, I don't know a lot of the celebrities that you mentioned because it's not really of my generation.
No, like Lucile Ball, I used to play backgammon on my day off at her house.
You think they could make a glamour girl out of me? Sure. Says right here, we work miracles.
But of course, you know Jane Fonda.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I did The Morning After with her. And Katie Seagal.
Yeah. So what's that lifestyle like? I mean, everyone says, oh, celebrities are just normal people. What's your impression?
Well, I had 2 things that most people don't get when they meet or know a famous person.
Mm-hmm.
All of the people that I met that were very famous all connected me to Le Cage Folles.
Yeah. So you're famous to them, basically.
Notable,
sure.
I had billboards all over Beverly Hills and that kind of thing. Except for Lana Turner, where we would have a special relationship. Our birthdays were a week apart, and we would have private cocktail somewhere where nobody knew.
Aww.
But the other stars, we knew each other when I do a film with them.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Bancroft always came after the movie was in a can and out. She would come to Le Cage, would bring her relatives from New York.
Wow.
You know, Tina Turner would do that. Cheetah would come when she had a house on the West Coast too. She would bring folks in. Elizabeth would come.
So you met Tina Turner as well?
Yes.
How's she like?
She was wonderful. Anita Baker was so good. She would come in. Lucille Ball had her own table.
Ugh.
So did Frank Sinatra way in the back. He only came twice.
But he came.
Stevie Wonder came to see the show.
All of these names, my mind is blown.
And then when I would come out to do my act in between each number, and I'd have a different outfit on, I would describe it.
For Stevie?
For Stevie.
Oh, that's great.
I liked that so much when the show was over. Le Cage had a big salon. I had a grand piano. Stevie Wonder came outside of the piano and did a free show for 3 songs.
Oh, just because he loved your show so much.
Yeah.
Wow. When did you stop entertaining?
About 1.5 years ago.
So when you were 86 and a half?
Yeah. Last film thing I did was Miley Cyrus's, the music video and the VMA Award.
Okay. And so you've been entertaining, like, since you said you started around 18.
67 years.
How do you have the energy to do so much every night, wearing heels, wearing gowns, even just dancing around? It's just because it's your passion?
No, I don't think of myself in that role as a passionate person. I just keep thinking that I found it as amusing for me to be doing that as the audience found seeing me do it.
So you just had fun?
Yeah, I just became another annex to the audience. I did everything but clap for myself.
But if you could, you would.
Oh, yes. And I was already standing up, so the ovation was easy.
Encore. And how have you now adapted to not having that all the time?
Well, because I have such a wonderful niece and her husband. She's known my career for 40 years. She used to hire me when she owned her own marketing company because she is a professor of marketing at USC. She would consider me one of her celebrities, and I would do a lot of the functions that she would set up.
Great.
You know.
That's so fun. We did kind of skim over the beginning.
Okay.
And also let me know if you don't want to talk about this, but were you always openly gay? Because I don't know back in the days how that must have been.
No. When I started dancing in Broadway musicals and on the road, one thing led to another, and I didn't come out until I was 26, and that was with another dancer. And then that's how that happened. It just happened.
Was your family like strict, or how did they take that?
Well, my family was dead by then.
Oh, that's a bit easier maybe.
Yeah, my mother and father both died in 1955, within the same year. And I was adopted.
Okay.
And so I never knew who they were. And then my mother had 2 children.
Your adoptive mother?
Yes, after that. And so it didn't work out. My mother loved me. The man who was the father of the other 2 children never wanted me. So when I was 14, going into high school, my mother moved me from our house to the neighborhood where there were 2 old ladies that owned a big house, sisters. So I lived with them all through high school.
Wow.
And then I never went back.
That seems like a really tough childhood, but also maybe for the best.
Well, yeah. When you talk about were you ever nervous? No, because once you've been through that as a teenager, you know, because I was forced then when I went into high school to go into the shows, the senior shows and the junior shows, and I sang in the and I danced. And in the summer, I would get a job at the Paper Mill Playhouse in Milburn, New Jersey, an equity playhouse. That's how I got all into that. I just made believe that I had a wonderful life.
And because you're in the theater, and that's...
Yes, I could. When I became an elderly person in my 70s, I considered that, I would have some things that I would think about that would make me sad. But being sad doesn't make you unhappy. There's a certain kind of sadness that can make you happy because you've survived it. It didn't ruin your perspective on life and the people you meet. In other words, you can't take all that trauma and transfer it to other people's relationships with you.
Yeah.
You just have to let it float away.
And also having that experience makes you who you are. It's not necessarily good experience, but like you said.
Yeah, because it's not as hard to destroy you when things don't go right.
Right, because you know how strong you are, I guess.
Yeah, well, you know, if you can pass through that, you can pass through this. And that's why I think it's hard for people now going through what we're all going through.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen. It's going to end.
Yeah.
Then everyone's going to have to probably take a breath and realize that there's some things that have to be done slightly differently.
Yeah, and we're going to be okay.
And we're going to be okay. We're okay now.
We are. Yeah, and I usually ask what's your advice for my generation, but you've given already so many pearls of knowledge.
Well, I don't think a person my age should give anyone advice, but you can say, this is how I feel. You know, like I've always wondered why, but I never understood a woman that felt she needed a man. I never got that. Because now is this era, 2020, there's no reason for a woman ever to feel that again.
We don't need men.
Well, if you want one, wanting is wonderful. Needing is not so.
I see. I mean, yeah, we can do anything. It's nice to have someone there, but we don't need to lean on them, so to speak.
No, well, a woman 9 times out of 10 will always be supportive of the important person in her life, whether it's a man or a woman or whatever it is. So that person has to learn that you need supporting as well. That means that you're an individual and your individuality needs to be supported.
Mm-hmm.
It's a matter of learning, if you don't already know it, when you look in the mirror, whether you're 88 and wrinkles and whatever, or you're 28 and you look in the mirror. If you don't like what you see, you're not going to like what you live with.
Yeah.
And if you don't like living with yourself, you're not going to like living with anyone. I like me. So I think I'm pretty cool.
I think so too. And I think actually RuPaul said it very well. If you don't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else?
That's true, because you've lost the habit.
Yeah, you need to take care of that first. And I talk about advice because you have so much more experience in the world and with people. And I wonder if you'd have advice for maybe younger gay people who are trying to just freaking survive.
Well, gay people in 2020 that are young are experiencing very different problems that I did.
Absolutely.
Very different problems. Except the one thing that never changes is what I just said. Learn to live with and love yourself. You live with you and you feel comfortable with yourself and with everything around you, then that's going to shed. Your relationships will be that. The stuff that happens outside now with this situation we're all in, young and old, is going to change people's vision of themselves. It will.
Yeah, because they have to live with themselves for a few months now and nowhere else to go. So
sing it out, sister.
It's a good time to take a look in the mirror for sure.
Because nobody else is going to be there with you. You're right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what else to ask. I mean, unless you have some other stories that come to mind.
You might enjoy this.
Sure.
People have asked me, Gypsy, who is your favorite actress? Because you've been in films with so many famous people.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Anne Bancroft.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because of her art, but because this is a famous, fabulous actress who took the time to take a 50-year-old man that she and her husband just signed, and she spent 6 months. Every single day I was on set, she would teach me and coach me herself. Nobody would do that.
That's very kind, yeah.
And of course, Mel I'll always love because he signed me to my first film.
Mm-hmm. And
they would say to me, who is your favorite director you've worked with? Well, I've worked with some of the world's greatest directors. Robert Altman, Sidney Lumet, Irving Moore from Dynasty.
Uh-huh.
I think my favorite director is Sidney Lumet. He directed me in the Jane Fonda, Jeff Bridges film,
Mm-hmm.
The Morning After. It was a wonderful film. It was about a film of a woman who was famous at one time and became an alcoholic and a drug user and wakes up in bed with a dead man.
Oh my God. Now I want to watch that movie. How is it like working with a director? What's that relationship?
Well, they were wonderful to me. Robert Altman, who had his own way of doing things. I've had no trouble with directors. Mel is very exact. You have to understand where he's coming from. His vision is always so clear
mm-hmm.
and so cut. And you have to fit into that picture and then it all...
You just have to make it work.
It works wonderfully that way.
Yeah.
Robert Altman was just wonderful. Gypsy, this is who you're supposed to be. You don't even need this script. Just do it. Do the scene.
That's nice. That gives you confidence.
Yes. And one of my best friends, I've done probably 78 or 80 television shows and talk shows.
Wow.
And Merv Griffin with the Gabors. And of course, he was very close with Ava Gabor.
Ah.
And so I miss him a lot because he was always wonderful. He was always sort of laid back. And Johnny Carson
mm-hmm.
had his issues on many things that people didn't know about. But when
mm-hmm.
they were celebrating his 25th anniversary on his show, Freddie D. Cordova, who was the producer, decided to do a surprise for Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going to his set, he hired this big hotel in Santa Monica,
Whoa.
filled it with everybody, including him, for his anniversary. And the show was the entire show from La Cage aux Folles.
Oh, wow.
He was interesting in many ways. Yeah. Oh, one other story.
Yes.
People have asked me, when you're on stage, when you were doing La Cage, what was your most memorable evening?
That's a perfect question.
Right. And I have the perfect answer. The showroom and dining room was in one room. Then it had long poles that were lit up. And then behind the poles was a big, big bar and then the piano bar. Yeah. Okay. So we would come in from the side and it was all open. So I would make my entrance. One night I made my entrance before I introduced the first act. I always came in and did my stick and stuff. And hi, Elizabeth, and hi, Lana, and bye, hi, Lucy. And the audience were all stars, so they all knew, screamed and yelled. I came out. I had not opened my mouth yet. And the whole audience screamed, stood up, clapping and yelling. And I said, oh my God, it's my dresses, because my dresses always made people crazy. But I said, it wasn't that. And I'm going like this, what in the world? Do you know why they did that?
Why?
Because you'll remember who this is, I hope. Milton Berle and Joey Bishop came, snuck in behind me after I focused on the audience, and they dropped their pants, and both of them were standing there with their boxer shorts on.
And you're like, it's my beautiful gown.
That's me. It was quite an evening.
But that was your favorite time.
My favorite story.
That's hilarious. I love that you're just performing because you're having fun, basically, and that's why you kind of never retired until now, I guess.
Yeah, well, yeah. You know, there's just, I mean, you know, if you can see me now, I mean, to lift this face up, you need a forklift and a prayer book.
I think for 88, you look very lively and gorgeous.
Well, but they're not going to see me anyway. It's just you.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll just sing about how beautiful you are, and they can make the image in their mind. And they're not going to see me either. It's just the voices, so they can imagine.
Oh, thank you, darling. That's very, very sweet of you.
Do a lot of famous personalities have this kind of trait where they're always on?
I think their biggest thing that they do is they're able to cut it off like this. You can look in their eyes. You can be talking to them. You can see how they cut it off. They don't want to be
like you're
involved.
Talking to them and they're just like, no, get away. Mm-hmm.
Yes, without saying. Well, some of them do say it. Lana Turner was very exact in La Cage. No one was to come to the table except Gypsy. Lucy was the same way, Lucile Ball. She was a Gypsy. I like the one that doesn't.
Do you think they're just fed up with having people at them all the time?
Well, to give you an example with Lucy, Lucy said to me one time after one night she was there, and before she left, she always had me to her table and we had a drink. And she said, Gypsy, do people ever try and hit on you? I said, for what? She said, money. I said, well, yeah, I guess they do. She said, here's the way to do it. She handed me a card. She said, have these cards printed up, and when they ask you for money, you say, yes, more than happy to do it. You hand them the card and you just say, call this number, talk to this gentleman. He handles
and then they just call to like a dead number?
No, they call there and they get that lawyer or the number and say, I'm so sorry, but Miss Ball is not able to do it.
Did people do that to you too? They just befriend you to get something out of your fame?
Yes. And now I'll tell you why Lana Turner, many years, would not autograph anything. Because she did that at one time, and someone got an imprint of how, I don't know, and cashed a check for $25,000. So she never did that again.
I never want to be famous because of stuff like that, where it seems a bit toxic sometimes.
Well, I'm not so sure that people are going to be famous in that way again. Taylor Swift, is about as famous as you can get, but she's not anywhere near like that. And they keep a certain lifestyle. Look at Miley. You know, she does her thing and did her thing. And of course, her house burned down in Malibu and the marriage went, but that's her thing. But she was as sweet to me. She would come on set for rehearsals for the music video. She always made sure she came to me personally. Hi, Gyps. How's everything? Of course, a lot of the other people in the cast were not amused with that.
They were jealous.
Well, I don't know if they were jealous. I think they were just put out. They had no idea what made me special. I was a scarecrow, an old man, but...
Oh, they didn't know you.
Most of them did not, no.
Is it like that people are kind of fighting over attention a lot?
Used to, with me, because when you're not in films all the time, my doing that video and the VMA Awards shocked so many people.
I'm glad. There's a thing about like being a badass older person and just dealing with it and being cool. I don't know.
Well, you're lucky to be my age and have something to talk about.
You have a lot of stories for sure.
I do.
Just out of my personal curiosity, what are some tips to doing drag?
2 years ago, I hit the Guinness Book of World Record. I was declared the world's oldest working drag queen.
Nice. Congratulations.
Well, I'm sure there's others now older than me, but I don't know.
They have to come and fight you for the title on a lip sync battle.
And the question is difficult for me because I'd be the wrong type of impersonator to ask that because my makeup is just, you know.
I mean, I'm not asking because I want to become a drag queen. It's more like I'm trying to get an insight. What does that preparation look like?
For me, nothing.
Nothing.
I just go on a little base. Then I take liquid liner and make an eyebrows way up. And then blue cobalt, big false eyelashes, lipstick, and then from the neck down, the dresses are to die.
Gowns and heels.
Yes, 6-inch heels.
I can't even walk in those.
I used to wear J-Lo's a lot.
Oh, okay. And it didn't like mess up your ankles or anything?
Hell no. And during Le Cage Fall days, here's some more history.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 3 men that ever had their legs insured for $1 million.
You had to insure your legs?
Yes. Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, and me, Lloyd's of London, insured my legs for $1 million.
Wow. Because if you broke a leg...
Well, no, because my legs were so beautiful.
Well, yeah, of course.
That's what they said. But they weren't as beautiful. Sid Charisse used to tell me, but my legs. I said, I know, Sid. She said, my legs are insured for $5 million too. Sid Charisse was a great dancer and a great film star. And she had the most beautiful legs in the world.
But yours were equally as beautiful, apparently.
Well, let me put it to you this way, dear. If my face was as pretty as my legs, I wouldn't even be on this program.
Yeah, you'd be somewhere up in the hills.
I'd be up somewhere.
Well, I'm really glad that you came, though, because it's a fascinating story, and I've got a lot more films to see now.
Yes.
I really appreciate hearing this story, and you tell it with such positivity, and it seems like you had a great time, and you're still having a great time.
Yes, I when I wake up in the morning, it's not when I wake up, it's if I wake up. Well, the if's gone for the day, so I'll just hit my walk, throw on the mask, and the streets are all empty when I walk in the morning, so I don't see anybody. I don't talk to anybody. And
well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's been great.
I can hear you. I think we better say bye-bye because you're starting to stop moving and talking.
All right. Sorry about that. But thank you so much.
Oh, I love you. Thank you much.
So, as you heard, we got cut off because of bad internet. But I think you get the picture. Gypsy was basically a badass dancer / MC / actor / superstar. You can follow Gypsy on Twitter at HAAKE. And you can see all of the pictures now on my website. For each episode, I compile a little slideshow so that you can kind of get a visual of what the guests look like. All the links will also be in the show notes. So if you like that and you want to hear more, episodes drop on the 14th of every month. Please leave a review. I post them every Sunday on Instagram when I get a chance, so if you want to get featured there, leave a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on social media for updates at Stories Your Granny Never Told, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and also now newly on Pinterest. You can contact the podcast at storiesyourgrannynevertold@gmail.com. And if you're not technologically minded, the voicemail is at 332-203-2059. So my grannies, get some binoculars and, look for birds outside your window if you need to keep busy. It's migration season. If you happen to see your neighbor sunbathing naked, it's not my fault. Don't comment. See you next month. Remember, girl, you run out of face before you run out of makeup.